Welcome back to Criminal Law class. In today's class, I will explore the two ways to discover or to establish the accused intention: direct intention and indirect intention. Direct intention is relatively straightforward. According to the case of R versus Mohan, 1975, the normal meaning of intention is generally taken to mean a result which the defendant wanted or aimed or produced. In R versus Mohan, it was ruled that direct intention implied that aim or purpose, a decision to bring about insofar as it lies within the accused's power, the commission of the offence, no matter whether the accused desired that consequence of his act or not. In other words, the defendant is said to have direct intention when they act with the aim, purpose, or goal of bringing about a particular consequence or prohibited outcome. So, for example, if a defendant deliberately shoots a victim in the head with the desire to kill them, they have a direct intention to kill. Now, this form of intention is clear and unambiguous. Lord Bridge, in the case of R versus Maloney, 1985, stated the judge should avoid any elaboration or paraphrase what is meant by intent and should leave the matter to the jury's good sense. In practice, this means the judge will simply tell the jury in a murder trial that the defendant must have intended to kill or cause really serious harm to have the necessary guilty mind, and then leave the matter to the good sense of the jury. Let me now turn to indirect intention. In some situations, a person may not have set out with a specific aim of causing harm, but their actions make a harmful consequence virtually certain. In these cases, the law recognizes oblique intention, also referred to as indirect intention. Now, to determine whether a defendant has indirect intention or oblique intention, the Woolen test, as established in the case of R versus Woolen, must be applied. The facts of this case are the defendant, in frustration, lost his temper and threw his 3-month baby onto hard service because the baby would not stop crying. The baby suffered a fractured skull and sadly died. The defendant was charged with murder. The defendant said it was not his intention to kill or harm his baby, but he was still found guilty of murder, and this was upheld by the Court of Appeal, basing the conviction that it was not a misdirection to explain indirect intention to the jury in terms that the defendant had an appreciation of substantial risk of injury. In other words, the test, which was subsequently found to be incorrect, set out by the trial judge, was the defendant foresaw that there was a risk of causing serious harm to the baby by his actions. The case was again appealed to the House of Lords, and it was all about clarifying the test of oblique or indirect intention. The House of Lords settled on what is now known as the Woolen test, which provides that the jury may find intention if 1. The consequence was virtually certain to result from the defendant's actions. This is the objective part of the test. And 2. The defendant appreciated that the consequence was a virtual certainty. This is the subjective part of the test. In the House of Lords ruling, they substituted the murder conviction for manslaughter because the original trial judge mistakenly enlarged the mens rea for murder by blurring the lines between intention and recklessness, which is not enough to convict for murder. And in other classes, I explore the meaning and definition of recklessness. Take another example based on a fictionalized case of an offender who burns down their local authority tenancy home with the aim and purpose to be relocated to another area in another local authority tenancy home. The offender sets fire to the building during the daytime when the offender's children are inside and the children die as a result. The offender may still be guilty of murder if death was a virtual certainty and the offender appreciated that death was a virtual certainty. To conclude and summarize: 1. The criminal law distinguishes between direct intention, where the consequence is the defendant's aim or purpose or goal, and oblique or indirect intention, where the defendant did not specifically desire the outcome, but the outcome was virtually certain and the defendant appreciated the outcome was virtually certain. And 2, the distinction in the two ways to establish intention aims to ensure no one at fault escapes criminal liability. Thank you for watching. Feel free to comment and don't forget to subscribe and follow for more.